Thousands of Black Americans are building lives beyond the United States. But the places getting the most attention online are not necessarily where the largest communities actually exist. Some destinations are famous for relocation content, while others have quietly attracted Black professionals, retirees, entrepreneurs, military families, and remote workers for decades. I examined migration patterns, census records, residency trends, and established expat networks to separate visibility from actual presence. The top result may challenge what you assumed. Like the video, subscribe, and tell me where you believe Black Americans are settling in the greatest numbers. Number 10. Portugal. A decade ago, Lisbon was treated like Europe's affordable little secret. Then half the internet apparently discovered the secret at the same time. Portugal has become one of the most visible destinations for Black American remote workers, retirees, entrepreneurs, and professionals seeking a European lifestyle without immediately choosing London or Paris. Lisbon has the largest social scene, while Porto, Setúbal, the Algarve, and smaller coastal communities attract people who want something quieter. You will find Black expat meetups, international churches, professional networks, cultural events, and a growing Afro-Portuguese community with roots in countries such as Angola, Cape Verde, Guinea-Bissau, Mozambique, and São Tomé and Príncipe. That last point matters. A Black American arriving in Portugal is not entering a country without Black history. Portugal's connection to Africa is centuries old. Although that history includes colonialism, slavery, migration, and social inequalities that do not disappear because the weather is pleasant. For remote workers, Portugal created a residence route requiring proof of overseas income equal to several times the Portuguese minimum wage. Retirees and people with passive income may explore different residency categories. However, immigration rules, required income, and processing procedures can change, so nobody should pack an apartment into 3 suitcases based on a cheerful social media video. Foreign salaries can stretch farther than local wages, but newcomers have also entered a country dealing with housing pressure, especially around Lisbon, Porto, and parts of the Algarve. Remote workers may celebrate paying less than they paid in New York or Los Angeles, while a Portuguese resident looks at the same rent and wonders whether somebody added an extra zero. Reporting on Portugal's remote work boom has documented the tension between attracting higher-earning foreigners and preserving affordable housing for locals. Portugal offers public transportation, access to the wider Schengen region, coastal living, and a pace that many Americans find refreshing. But Portuguese bureaucracy can be slow, wages are relatively modest, and speaking only English may keep you inside an expat bubble. Portugal makes the list because the Black American community is visible and growing. But visibility is not the same thing as size. That difference becomes increasingly important as this countdown continues. Number 9. Dominican Republic. Palm trees can make almost any financial decision look reasonable, especially when the alternative is another winter heating bill in the United States. The Dominican Republic attracts Black Americans for reasons that are easy to understand. It is close to the United States, flights are widely available, Spanish is learnable, the coastline is beautiful, and American income can provide a comfortable lifestyle in the right circumstances. Black American residents can be found around Santo Domingo, Santiago, Punta Cana, Las Terrenas, Puerto Plata, and the Samana Peninsula. The population is predominantly of African and mixed ancestry, but Americans should not assume Dominican ideas about race operate exactly like American ideas about race. Identity may be shaped by nationality, skin tone, social class, family background, and the country's complicated relationship with neighboring Haiti. A Black American passport may affect how someone is treated, but it does not erase colorism or guarantee acceptance. One Black American resident interviewed by Travel Noir described feeling safer in the Dominican Republic than in the United States. That is her identifiable personal experience, not a universal promise. Another Black American writer described encounters involving nationality, anti-Haitian assumptions, and police scrutiny. Put those experiences together, and you get a much more honest picture. 2 Black Americans can live in the same country and come away with completely different conclusions. That raises an uncomfortable question. Does living in a majority Black country automatically mean you will feel more understood as a Black American? Not necessarily. You may experience less of America's specific racial tension while confronting a different system of class, color, and nationality. You may love the warmth of neighborhood life while becoming frustrated by traffic, inconsistent services, or the slower rhythm of official paperwork. You may save money outside the most expensive tourist zones, but imported products, private education, reliable backup electricity, and premium healthcare can quickly raise your budget. Long-term residence also involves more than repeatedly entering as a tourist. The Dominican Immigration Authority requires applicants for ordinary temporary residence to present documents including a valid passport, an approved residence visa, an apostilled birth certificate, and other supporting records. This is a legal relocation, not an endless beach vacation with a laptop. The Dominican Republic earns its place because of proximity, lifestyle, established American connections, and a visible Black expat presence. Still, anyone considering it should spend time outside the resorts, learn Spanish, and listen to Dominicans whose lives are not priced in dollars. Number 8. Costa Rica. Pura Vida sounds beautifully simple until you discover that paradise still sends invoices. Costa Rica has attracted a recognizable community of Black American women, retirees, remote workers, families, and entrepreneurs. Many are drawn to the country's environmental beauty, political stability, outdoor lifestyle, and slower pace. San Jose and the Central Valley offer the broadest access to hospitals, schools, and services, while Guanacaste appeals to beach-focused expats. Puerto Viejo and the Caribbean province of Limón carry particular significance because of their Afro-Costa Rican culture and long-standing Caribbean heritage. Costa Rica also actively promotes a digital nomad program. Qualifying applicants must generally demonstrate a stable monthly income of at least $3,000 for an individual or $5,000 for a family, along with medical insurance covering the authorized stay. The program can grant 1 year with the possibility of renewal for another year. That sounds organized, and it is. But Costa Rica is not the bargain bin version of Central America. Housing in desirable beach communities can be expensive. Imported cars, electronics, and familiar American products may cost far more than newcomers expect. Roads and internet quality vary by location, and the peaceful jungle house you saw online may be peaceful, partly because it is 40 minutes from the services you suddenly need. Black American residents interviewed in established publications have described finding community and emotional breathing room in Costa Rica. Others have also encountered reminders that racism and prejudice do not stop at the American border. Those accounts are valuable precisely because they disagree with one another. Relocation content becomes dangerous when one person's happy experience is presented as a national guarantee. Then comes a deeper contradiction. What happens when people searching for sanctuary unintentionally help price local residents out of theirs? Puerto Viejo has experienced debate over foreign property ownership, development, and displacement. Black Americans may arrive wanting connection with Afro-Costa Rican culture, but good intentions do not automatically prevent economic inequality. A newcomer earning in dollars has purchasing power that many local workers do not. Costa Rica can offer nature, community, and a healthier daily rhythm. It can also feel expensive, humid, bureaucratic, and isolated depending on where you settle. Visit during the rainy season, rent before buying, and learn what your life feels like when the vacation excitement wears off. That is the Costa Rica you would actually be choosing. Number 7. Panama. Retirement paperwork rarely inspires excitement, but Panama somehow turned a pension statement into one of its strongest advertisements. Panama has attracted American retirees for decades, including an organized and increasingly visible community of Black American retirees, professionals, and business owners. Panama City offers modern hospitals, international businesses, nightlife, and direct flights. Coronado attracts coastal retirees. Boquete offers cooler mountain weather, and areas such as Colón and Bocas del Toro connect with the country's deep Afro-Caribbean history. The US dollar circulates alongside Panama's Balboa, which removes the daily drama of converting prices in your head. The country also sits within easy flying distance of the United States. For families supporting parents, managing businesses, or returning for medical appointments, that proximity can matter more than an inspirational view from a balcony. Panama's Pensionado program is one of its biggest draws. The Panamanian Embassy in Washington states that applicants generally need a verifiable lifetime pension of at least $1,000 per month, plus an additional amount for each dependent. The application must be handled in Panama through a Panamanian attorney, and supporting documents require authentication. The program also provides legally established discounts in areas such as transportation, utilities, entertainment, and certain healthcare services. For the right retiree, that is unusually attractive. For someone without qualifying lifetime income, it is not a magic door. And Panama creates a question that many expat communities dislike answering. Are you moving into the country, or moving into a comfortable foreigner zone located inside the country? You can live in an English-speaking bubble, shop where other foreigners shop, and socialize almost entirely with retirees from North America. That may feel convenient, but it limits cultural understanding and can inflate your expenses. Panama becomes far more rewarding when you speak Spanish, understand local expectations, and build relationships beyond the expat circuit. The country also has major income inequality. Sleek towers in Panama City can sit within sight of communities facing far fewer resources. A foreign pension may create comfort, but it does not make those contrasts disappear. Panama ranks above Costa Rica because its retirement infrastructure and American presence are more deeply established. Yet it remains less culturally celebrated than Ghana, which is exactly where this countdown begins, challenging popular assumptions. Number 6. Ghana. No destination on this list carries more emotional weight for Black Americans than Ghana. For many members of the African diaspora, arriving in Accra or standing near the coastal forts at Cape Coast and Elmina is not simply tourism. It can feel like confronting a family story whose opening chapters were deliberately erased. Ghana recognized that connection and built national initiatives around it. The Year of Return campaign in 2019 encouraged people of African descent to visit, invest, and reconnect with the country. Its follow-up, Beyond the Return, continued that outreach. In November of 2024, Ghana officially granted citizenship to 524 members of the African diaspora. Reporting on the ceremony indicated that many of the recipients were Black Americans. That is not just branding. Citizenship can be passed to descendants, making the relationship far deeper than a tourist campaign. Black American residents are most visible around Accra, Tema, Pram, Cape Coast, and other communities where diaspora-led businesses, housing projects, and cultural organizations have developed. English is Ghana's official language, which reduces one major barrier. The country has a strong entrepreneurial culture, lively arts, warm social life, and a level of historical connection that Portugal or Costa Rica simply cannot reproduce. Yet Ghana's emotional importance can distort estimates of its actual Black American population. It may be the most symbolic destination on this list, without being the country where the greatest number live. There is another tension. A Black American arriving with dollars may feel racially connected while remaining economically foreign. Local salaries, infrastructure challenges, power interruptions, healthcare expectations, and business procedures can turn the dream into hard daily work. During the popular December travel season, Ghanaian residents and journalists have raised concerns about rising prices and venues charging amounts aimed at wealthier diaspora visitors. So what happens when coming home still comes with foreigner pricing? That does not make the connection fake. It makes it complicated. Ghana may offer belonging, purpose, and opportunity, but shared ancestry does not erase cultural differences. Black Americans are not Ghanaians who simply grew up somewhere else. Respect requires learning local customs, listening more than lecturing, and avoiding the assumption that American money automatically equals wisdom. Ghana is one of the most meaningful Black American relocation destinations anywhere in the world. But meaning and population size are two different measurements. We're halfway through the countdown. If you are enjoying the video so far, hit the like button, subscribe to Virtual Travel by Brian, and ring the notification bell for more informative content. Let's get back into it. Number 5. France. Long before social media invented the word Blaxit, Black Americans were already crossing the Atlantic and remaking themselves in Paris. Writers, musicians, soldiers, artists, and intellectuals created one of the oldest Black American expatriate traditions in Europe. Figures such as James Baldwin, Josephine Baker, and Richard Wright helped establish France as a place where Black American creativity could expand beyond the restrictions they faced at home. That history still influences how Paris is marketed to Black travelers today. Modern Black Americans in France include students, academics, artists, corporate employees, military-connected families, entrepreneurs, and people married to French citizens. Paris and its surrounding region hold the largest concentration, but Americans also settle in cities such as Lyon, Toulouse, Bordeaux, Marseille, and Nice. France is difficult to rank accurately because its statistical system does not produce a simple racial census resembling the United States. France's National Statistics Agency explains that legal and constitutional restrictions limit the creation of ethnic or racial classifications, although carefully controlled research can examine discrimination and diversity under specific conditions. In plain language, France may count an American citizen or an American-born resident, but that does not automatically tell us how many are Black Americans. That data gap is one reason confident online rankings should make you suspicious. France also has its own argument about race. The national ideal emphasizes universal citizenship rather than officially separating people into racial groups. Supporters believe this prevents the government from defining citizens by race. Critics argue that refusing to measure racial differences can make discrimination harder to prove. A Black American may enjoy not being placed inside America's familiar racial script, then discover that French society has its own debates involving policing, immigration, religion, African identity, and the treatment of communities from former French colonies. And Paris will test your budget with the enthusiasm of a waiter presenting a bill you were not emotionally prepared to see. Housing can be compact, bureaucracy can be rigid, and professional success often requires French. Still, France offers strong transportation, cultural depth, international employment, and access to a broad Black population with African, Caribbean, and European roots. France ranks this high because its Black American presence is historically established, not recently invented. The fantasy of effortless racial escape, however, should remain at the airport. Number 4. Germany. A surprising number of American passports have been stamped into German life through military service, universities, international companies, and skilled employment. Germany's Black American population is difficult to isolate statistically, but the wider American presence is substantial and geographically spread. Berlin attracts artists, technology workers, and creatives. Frankfurt is a major finance and transportation center. Stuttgart, Wiesbaden, Ramstein, Kaiserslautern, and other areas have long-standing connections to the United States military. Munich attracts professionals in engineering, technology, and international business. For some Black Americans, Germany's appeal is not about tropical weather or cheap beachfront property. It is structure. Trains, worker protections, public services, walkable cities, and the possibility of building a life without depending on a car for every carton of milk can feel refreshing. The country also provides formal routes for skilled workers. Germany's official immigration portal explains that qualified professionals generally need a recognized qualification and a specific skilled job offer. The European Union Blue Card offers another path for qualifying workers who meet education and salary requirements. Health insurance is compulsory, and proof of coverage is part of establishing legal residence. Germany will organize your insurance, register your address, and probably send you a letter explaining another letter you need to request. The system can be reliable and still drive you slightly mad. The larger debate is whether Germany's less American style of racial conversation means Black Americans experience less racism or simply encounter it in unfamiliar forms. Experiences vary greatly by city, language ability, profession, and personal appearance. Berlin is not a small town in eastern Germany, just as Atlanta is not rural Montana. Learning German can determine whether you build a complete life or remain dependent on English-speaking workplaces and expatriate friends. Housing shortages in major cities can make apartment searches exhausting. Official appointments may require patience, and regulated professions can demand credential recognition. Still, Germany deserves its high ranking because many Americans do not merely visit. They remain through work, family, or former military connections. That long-established pipeline likely supports a Black American population larger than the highly visible communities in several fashionable relocation destinations. Germany is not selling emotional homecoming. It is selling function. And for some viewers, function may be exactly what America stopped providing. Number 3. United Kingdom. Crossing the Atlantic without changing languages sounds convenient. Until somebody asks whether you want chips and hands you fries while calling the chips crisps. The United Kingdom is one of the strongest candidates for a large Black American population abroad because it combines a substantial American-born population with English-language universities, multinational employers, entertainment industries, family relationships, and decades of migration between the two countries. London dominates the conversation, but Black Americans also live in Birmingham, Manchester, Bristol, Edinburgh, and other university or business centers. The country already has large Black British communities with Caribbean and African roots, giving Black Americans access to cultural spaces, churches, food, music, and professional networks that may feel familiar. Familiar does not mean identical. Black British identity developed through a different history involving the British Empire, Caribbean migration, African migration, and local class structures. A Black American arriving in London may recognize the music and food while completely missing the social codes. Accent, nationality, and class can shape interactions as strongly as race. Unlike France, the Census for England and Wales allows researchers to cross-reference country of birth and ethnic group. The Office for National Statistics provides a dedicated dataset doing exactly that, although the categories still do not perfectly capture everyone who personally identifies as Black American. England and Wales counted about 2,400,000 residents in broad Black ethnic categories in the 2021 census. That gives the United Kingdom a stronger evidence base than most countries on this list. The hidden obstacle is immigration. Americans cannot simply arrive, rent a flat, and declare themselves British because they watched 3 seasons of a royal drama. Skilled workers generally need an eligible job and sponsorship. Application charges can be substantial, and many visa applicants must also pay an annual immigration health surcharge, which is currently more than £1,000 for many adult categories. Then there is housing. London can make New York residents look at a tiny bedroom and say, "Actually, this feels familiar." The United Kingdom ranks third because the community is established, measurable, and connected to multiple professional pathways. It may not offer the cheapest escape, but it offers one of the broadest platforms for Black Americans seeking education, work, culture, and international careers. Number 2. Canada. The quietest contender in this countdown sits directly above the United States and rarely receives the dramatic start over abroad treatment. Canada does not feel exotic enough for relocation influencers. There are no tropical beaches in Toronto, and nobody is filming retirement content beside a palm tree in February. Yet Canada gives us something far more valuable than online excitement: unusually strong census evidence. Statistics Canada reported that 27,060 Black residents counted in the 2021 census were born in the United States. That represented roughly 1.7% of Canada's total Black population. This is not a perfect count of everyone who identifies culturally as Black American, because birthplace and identity are not identical. Still, it is one of the clearest official figures available anywhere in this countdown. Ontario held nearly half of Canada's Black population, while Quebec held more than 1/4. Toronto is therefore an obvious center, followed by Montreal, Ottawa, Vancouver, Calgary, and historic Black communities in Nova Scotia. Canada's attractions are practical: geographic closeness, English or French, universities, professional opportunities, public healthcare systems, and frequent flights home. For some Black Americans, moving to Canada does not feel like abandoning the continent. It feels like changing the rules while keeping the same time zones. but crossing the border does not erase North American inequality. Black Canadians have their own histories involving slavery, segregation, migration, policing, and employment discrimination. Canada's national image is often more polite than America's, and politeness can become a very effective curtain. Housing is another major problem. Canada's National Housing Agency reported that rental vacancy improved across many major markets in 2025, but affordability remained difficult, particularly in expensive cities such as Toronto and Vancouver. More available apartments do not automatically help when the rent still looks like it was calculated during a board meeting on the moon. Canada may offer social stability and familiarity, but immigration remains selective. Weather can be punishing, taxes may be higher than some Americans expect, and professional credentials do not always transfer smoothly. Still, the evidence is difficult to ignore. Canada probably has one of the world's largest identifiable populations of American-born Black residents. So, why is it not number one? Because the country below the United States has an American-born population abroad so enormous that even after applying several major cautions, it remains the strongest candidate. Number 1. Mexico. Proximity changes everything. Mexico is the strongest candidate for the country where the greatest number of Black Americans live abroad. But the evidence must be handled carefully. Mexico's 2020 census recorded roughly 797,000 people born in the United States living in Mexico. That was by far the largest foreign-born group in the country. However, you cannot label all of them American expats. The figure includes children born in the United States who returned to Mexico with Mexican parents, dual nationals, retirees, workers, spouses, and many other family situations. It also does not tell us how many are Black. Even after making that distinction, Mexico's scale is hard to dismiss. Black Americans have established visible communities in Mexico City, Playa del Carmen, Cancun, Mérida, Puerto Vallarta, San Miguel de Allende, Lake Chapala, Oaxaca, and parts of Baja California. Some are retirees. Others are remote workers, veterans, teachers, entrepreneurs, artists, or families seeking more time, space, and flexibility. Mexico offers what many distant destinations cannot: the ability to return to the United States quickly. You can remain connected to relatives, businesses, and healthcare arrangements without crossing an ocean. That convenience supports long-term settlement, not just temporary experimentation. Residency is still a legal process. Mexico's consulates publish financial solvency requirements for temporary residents, but the exact thresholds vary by consular office and are updated over time. Some offices also require remote workers to provide employer confirmation that their work can continue from Mexico. Anyone serious about moving should follow the requirements of the specific consulate handling the application. Mexico also forces the most important moral question in the entire video. When does seeking a cheaper life become participation in somebody else's housing crisis? Mexico City has experienced organized protests over gentrification, short-term rentals, and foreign remote workers. In 2025, the city government proposed measures addressing rent increases and displacement after residents demonstrated in heavily visited neighborhoods. President Claudia Sheinbaum condemned xenophobic behavior while acknowledging that housing pressure was a legitimate concern. Black Americans deserve options abroad, but being Black does not cancel the economic power of earning dollars in a lower-wage community. Mexico takes number 1 because of scale, proximity, migration history, residency pathways, and the number of established American communities across the country. It is the most defensible answer available, not a mathematically proven racial census result. That distinction is why I researched this list instead of simply repeating whatever destination was trending online. Which country do you believe has the largest Black American community outside the United States? And which one would you personally trust enough to call home?